My goodness, hello, there's so many people here, so many hot girls, I love it. Oh my gosh, I just moved the whole table, sorry. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm so freaking excited to chat with these three amazing, wonderful authors who write the best and swooniest romances. Thank you all so much for letting me be in your presence. I love it, I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Oh, it was literally like the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I'm so excited. I wanna start off by saying, we have something to celebrate besides romance, including romance. It is Nisha's birthday. Not today, but soon it will be Nisha's birthday.
It's
Saturday. So I think we should all say, happy birthday, Nisha. Happy birthday, Nisha. Perfect. Now that we have business squared away, I want to start off with a question that you never ever forget your first. This is true. So what is the very first romance novel you all ever read? I'll let you go first and we can go down the line.
My very first adult romance was actually one of my dad's, one of Papi's. And our familia, Papi is the big romance reader. Shout out to Papi. And but I was about 15 years old, a sophomore in high school. We were living in Key West, and it was like day 2 or 3. We were stuck in a hurricane shelter, and teenager me this was pre-cell phone, obviously, pre-Game Boy, any of that stuff. I was climbing the walls, bored, and Papi handed me a bag. One of his hurricane supplies was a bag full of Harlequin Presents and Harlequin Romances, and Papi basically said, pick one, stop complaining. A lot of people ask, I don't remember the title, but I clearly remember because the covers were so different. It was a Harlequin romance, which the sweeter, so that probably speaks to like what I write, but it was a Harlequin romance read in Boca Chica, which is one of the naval bases in Key West during a hurricane.
Do you remember anything about the plot? Like, what was the hero's profession? What was the heroine's profession? Was he tall? How did they do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, I mean, how tall? Is he like 5'10" tall,
Yeah.
6'3" tall?
Girl, do you know my age? No. No, I don't remember. I think I just remember before that I was like Sweet Valley High, like the young adult romances, right? So it kind of like ushered me into the adult romances. And I think what all of them held in common, it was just like that celebrate, like the high emotion, right? Like the happily ever after, that just feeling whooshed away into all of that is kind of what captured me.
I love it. Nisha?
I feel like I've told this story before, so like if you heard it before, just pretend. It's like so the summer after 7th grade, during the summer, my mom used to take us to the library like once a week, and we'd come back with like a stack of books, and I'd gone through like all of the Babysitter Club, all of the Sweet Valley High. Like at the time, there was a series called Trash. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but it was like an IP series that Scholastic put out, and it was amazing. It was like Real World, but for like teens. And so I like read all of those, and then I had gone through pretty much most of the YA romance, and I wanted something different, so I wandered into the adult section of our library, and it was like super forbidden, and it was really quiet, and they had like a new releases section of all these like wonderfully packaged mass market paperbacks, and one of the new releases was Inner Harbor by Nora Roberts.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it had like a pretty peach, like beachy cover. And when I tell you that book changed my life, like there was a yacht scene, and like from that, like I remember that yacht scene. I could probably like recite it because like pages were like falling out of the book by the time I was done with it. It was so amazing, and that was it. That was it for me.
I love that. That was so eerily specific. Like the summer after 7th grade spoke to me. That's like a peek into Nisha's writing. Like so specific. It's so funny. I love it.
Thank you.
Ali?
Okay, first of all, I want to formally apologize to Adriana because she has heard this story. Every panel we have been on, she had to listen to this story. Just, again, pretend to be shocked. So at the time, I really liked Friends, like the TV show Friends, and I shipped Ross and Rachel. I am no longer that person. I have changed and grown, and that's not who I am. But at the time, I really shipped them hard, and there was this, it was some kind of Harlequin. I don't remember which Like they had different, the
different
the
lines.
pink ones. Yes, I don't remember which one, but the main characters were named Ross and Rachel.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, that is
Fate.
obviously for me. And and they literally banged on page 4 or something.
So
best
then
kind
it
of
was not a
book.
Harlequin romance.
It was
Maybe
a
for
steamy
some.
one. I remember reading that and being like,
Blaze.
Blaze, maybe, yes.
Yeah.
You guys, I had never read anything like that. I was probably in middle school or something, and I remember being like I was, changed my life, just like Nisha.
I love it. Well, that kind of lends to my next question is what about it gripped you besides the best parts, the steamy scenes, the banging on page 4? What about it gripped you enough to be like, oh, that's what I want to do for my life? Like, I want to write romance. I want to share that same kind of joy.
I can't say that specific book is what made me want to write. There was a teacher, an English teacher in high school that said, "Have you thought about English? Have you thought about writing?" So that kind of, I think what draws me to romance in general is the celebration of healthy relationships, whether it's the couple, but also like within their inner group, right? But the struggles, I'm a big sports fan, and I feel like a baseball game, a Cubs baseball game, and a romance will have like all the like the highs and the lows, and then hopefully you're like waving the flag, whether it's the W flag for the Cubs or like a different kind of flag, and at another time. But that whole rush of emotions that you get from a romance, whether it's a sweet romance and it's just the touch, or you're like kiss her already, or whether it's page 4 and they're banging, right?
Yeah.
You're there and you're feeling it all. So I think that's what and when you're in the zone when you're writing, right? Like the best thing is you're writing and you like you're just as excited, right? When I wrote one of my books and he's serenading her, I had to pull away and I was like, oh my God, I want someone to serenade me, right? Like when you're feeling it, then hopefully your readers are feeling it too. And so like when I read any of their books, like and I'm in the story like that. So that's what draws me as a writer and as a reader.
I love that. Nisha, do you share that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with like romance stories in general. Like the Bollywood movies were always playing in my house, and at the time, like in the '90s, Bollywood was all romance, and so I didn't even know that movies ended like with a sad ending until I watched Titanic, and that was like my first time, and it was awful. It was like the worst experience. But
Get on the door.
I know, and they could both
There's
they
room
could
on the
fit on the
door.
door. But like I remember after reading Inner Harbor specifically that it was like the best like euphoric sensation that just stuck with me for weeks. It was like you can't think about anything else, or if you do something else, like something will remind you of a moment in that story, and it's like you're love drunk, you're like hungover without all of the like negative side effects, and I just wanted to like feel like that and like make others feel like that, and that was why like Inner Harbor specifically was such like it was the right book at the right time. Is it a perfect book? No, but like none of like is there really ever such thing as a perfect book? But like that book specifically for me was the right book at the right time to trigger all of that.
Yeah, I feel like love drunk is the exact right word that you get when you read romance. Yeah. Allie, what about you?
Yeah, so I feel like I was always very into, I want to say shipping culture, but I wouldn't have known that word at the time. But like I remember watching Star Trek, and my favorite episodes were the ones in which Spock has some kind of mental breakdown because he's in love with someone or whatever, which is like every other episode. He's supposed to have no feelings, but then he has all the feelings. But yeah, I don't know. I cannot articulate why. I think if I think about it, it is that idea of, two people who find each other and they are somehow perfect for each other, right? Like even though they are messy, it's just a dream. But I also am starting to think that maybe loving romance is genetic because my sister also got to shipping in a totally like. Literally, my sister and I, Spider-Man meme, looked at each other, and she was like, I write fanfic fiction, and I was like, I write fan fiction. So I'm like, it has to be genetic, right? Like the love
Something
for
in the
romance.
water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna switch up the order. So Allie, you're gonna go first now. It's not a tough question. So there's so many parts to a romance novel. There's the meet cute, the first kiss, the first time, the HEA, of course. So what part would you say is your favorite part to not read but write, and your least favorite part to write?
Okay, well, first of all, the sex scenes are my favorite part to write.
Of course, it's duh. Right answer.
I also generally I like the fights. That's when the
Ooh.
conflict happens.
Yeah.
And they're usually like these kind of pinching points when. Yeah, but mostly the sex scenes. My least favorite part to write. I feel like every time you have to write something where the main couple they're not both on page. I mean, I guess I have to, give you some world building. I guess they have to have friends or whatever. But yeah, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, fair enough. Nisha, what about you?
So I'll be honest with you. Like when you asked me this, like previously, I was thinking to myself, like, there's no favorite part that I have to write, because like writing for me, especially that first draft, is like the most painful experience, and it's awful. But at the end, I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, if I'm really being honest, I think my favorite part is if I can get like 18 people in a room and write banter where all 18 people are together, because for some reason I just really enjoy like a crowded room of people yelling at each other, and I think it's partially like trauma from my childhood. Who knows?
When the six of them are all on page.
Like that is
so
that
fun. Yeah.
like that is my favorite part. And oddly enough, the sex scenes are like my least favorite.
What?
Because
this is why we have to co-write.
Listen, do you know how many times like I have to make sure that like the correct number of limbs are present? I'm like,
Can a hand go
I'm
there?
like, how many?
That is the copy
Like, how many hands are touching her? And why is there like 4 on her butt?
We like monster romance. So
Fair enough. Yeah. Priscilla, what about you?
I think for me, the parts that I like are those small, like everybody knows, like that hand flex in like Pride and Prejudice, right? So those little moments, like those buildups where I want them to already to be together, but like if love interest meets love interest, I don't want to say boy meets girl, but like if love interest meets love interest and they get together real quick, it's a really short book, right? So there has to be that conflict, but so that buildup of if it's like a hand touch or so those little moments that I savor as I write closed door. So, but there's depending on the couples, right? They'll get as hot and heavy as they tell me they need to get before I like to close the door or fade to black. I'm kind of more private that way, so I like to give them their privacy. I'm like, I already know what you're doing.
also, moments like the hand flex are worth 70 billion sex scenes like that.
So those moments I enjoy writing. I think for me the hardest part writing are usually like the very beginning, getting started, like don't info dump, or like that's when imposter syndrome doubts can kind of get in my way. So the starting and then usually like the end, because there's a freaking deadline that's looming, and I have the ending like a movie in my head, and then I feel that pressure of by then I'm like in love with these characters and I want my readers to love them as much. So I'm like, pounding away, no pun intended, on my typewriter. On my laptop, needing, feeling that clock ticking, but wanting to do the best I can for my characters so that when it goes out there, then the readers love my characters as much as I do. So that ticking clock at the end and then the worst thing is to email your editor and you get an out of office and you're like, oh man, I could have had more time. But so like the starting and the ending are the hard parts just for different pressure reasons. So
I feel like that's like a universal, just like there's so much to hate and so much to love about writing and stuff, so that makes sense. Also, I want to say the groan that went through this room when she said the hand flex in Pride and Prejudice was actually insane. Everybody collectively went, Like you guys, like people sat back. Like that was really telling of the audience we have today. So we're also here to talk about how your books empower romance and empower people through romance. And I want to know why that's so important to you to make an effort to do that. You know, you're empowering women, you're empowering queer people, BIPOC people, all of it. So why is that important to you? Priscilla, you can go first this time, switching it up.
Okay, I think really like, so I'll speak, and I don't know if I'm garbling the question, so you can like elbow me if like,
no,
that's not,
say what you want.
We're not there
Yeah.
yet. So like, whether it's, so like talking about like diversity and the need for diversity and the fight against book bans and all of that is because we're all writing and we're reading a romance that celebrates and champions healthy relationships. And so for me, I think in a genre that is like that, then everybody should be able to see themselves or a loved, you know, someone in their family or, you know, a loved one at some point like depicted on the pages as a lead character, not just a secondary, but as a lead character, finding that they're happily ever after or they're happily for now, whatever that book is. And so to me, yes, I write in there with Latina characters, like pretty much almost all but maybe one heroine are Latina. Just when I first started writing and reading, I didn't see that on the page. So I was doing what my early books sucked for a whole bunch of reasons, right? But in part it wasn't until like maybe my fifth book that I picked up a book from Kensington's Encanto line, a line that was around for like 2 years and then folded. And the books were like this in English, right? And then you would flip it over and it was this, the book in Spanish, right? And it was,
so cool.
yeah, I loved it. It was great practice, but that's a different story. But it was the first time that I picked up a book and there were like people talking like you know, like my family does, and people that looked like us and sounded like us, and they were the ones that were leading the story, and it was like a light bulb. Not that I had been given permission, but like it kind of like opened my eyes to like I can write that, and that next book that I wrote didn't sell, but it did final in a national contest, and yes, I know that my craft had been getting better over the years, but I also feel like seeing those books on the shelves and reading them, I was writing from here, but then I also started writing from here. And everybody should, so to me, like, that's what I think about, the me who needed that book, to other readers, to a young girl at the San Antonio Book Festival that is, you know, talking to me about, oh, you know, I've never seen myself and my primas, all of that. So that's why it's important to me to write the books that I write. And I think it's important that Nisha writes the books, you know, and Ali in STEM, and, you know, all walks of life should be seen on the pages and the covers of our books.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to fangirl backstage, but I am a huge fan of hers, and Alexis Daria is in the audience, and I'm a huge fan because as a Latina writer too, I was like, oh, I never saw these books, but then I read your guys' romance novels, and it changes the game for everybody, you know? So I really think that's beautiful. Nisha, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to kind of like reiterate what Priscilla said. It's important that like we see ourselves and our communities on the pages of books and like as leads. Like with South Asian characters specifically, there's it's like the trauma narrative, or it's like the grief narrative, or it's like Slumdog Millionaire is the thing that, you know, everyone mentions. And even to this day, if we're like pitching on the West Coast, like in like to producers, and we'll talk about Dating Dr. Dill to producers, they'll say, well, we don't know if people are ready for 2 South Asian Americans on screen. That is still a conversation that's happening today. So I want, you know, my community to feel like they have the right and the ability to like exist and be messy and fall in love and have all of these experiences. So so that is why it's so important for me to write like South Asians in my romances.
I love that. Ali, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, everything they said, really, just the importance of showing that everyone is, everyone should have joy, you know? Yeah, that's it.
Good answer. I love that from everybody. That was great. So kind of leading into that, specifically as women, we're often writing about women. So it's important, I feel like, in the romance community that we give agency to women. And so why is that important to you, and how do you feel like you have your own agency when you write romance? Allie, we'll start with you. Everybody's looking at you, so.
This is a hard question.
Yeah.
Why is it important? Because can you repeat the question? I was too busy panicking to actually parse
No,
it.
that happens.
That's what I do.
Me too. Basically, how does romance empower women, and how does it empower you?
I mean, for me, I'm of two minds, and I am still kind of making up my mind. I don't think that all romance is necessarily feminist. So there is,
Yeah.
it's, to be clear, I don't think that the genre per se, just by existing, is necessarily empowering women. I do think that books that do empower women are the ones, like you said, where there is agency and where what is centered is, the power of community, the power of just generally people being able to make choices for their own happiness and for the happiness of those around them. But I have mixed feelings about the idea that all romance has to be feminist. I think what is interesting to me is that not necessarily, like, we don't ask this of any other genre, And so, I am still working through this. I am a very slow thinker.
No, that's super fair. I guess a better way to reframe the question is your romance novels, not the genre, but how do you specifically do it? Or try to, or hope to.
I mean, it really depends on the specific character.
Yeah.
I think it's just about centering what the character needs and bringing the character to a point where they are able to make choices that will make their lives better.
Yeah.
That's how I do it personally.
Yeah, I love it. Nisha, what about you?
Okay. No, I just had to get the thread. So I agree. I don't think all romance is like inherently feminist. I don't think like books are necessarily like something that you can talk about is like inherently feminist. Feminism is like a theoretical lens through which like you can analyze something. So I think that's like important for all of us to just level set. The other piece of it is the reason why this conversation of like romance and feminism started to happen is because it's a genre that centered like specifically like a marginalized demographic at the time when romance was really like seeing its rise. And even now we're seeing that it's centering marginalized stories in a way that, is not as prevalent in other genres. So that's why we're kind of like seeing that discussion. We have conversations about consent. We have conversations about like centering like wants and needs and like rights that are also like were considered novel at a particular time in our history. So I think that's where a lot of this discourse has kind of come from. Not to say that all of this discourse has come from that, because like, history is not like linear, different things have impacted this discussion, but that's just one of them. So the way that I also have like very strong feelings about romance, like the way that people expect romance to deliver and do certain things, which, is literally what we're trying to fight against. Like, and so for me, my stories, like my whole goal is to basically like write characters who are able to exist in like messy and flawed and complicated ways and like figure things out. And like what I want is for people to see that this is okay. And that's it. Like that is my only expectation for my books. Yeah. Like it is absolutely okay to be messy and you can still be loved.
Yeah,
Amen.
I love that.
I think for me, like, I don't think of my books as like feminist or anything. I think mostly like when I look at my heroines and or like when they come to me and as I get to know them and at the course of writing the book, like they're all obviously, if I'm doing my job right, they're all different, they're all individual, but there's some aspect about them that I either admire or aspire to or applaud them for, right? And so at some point, my hope, like while I'm writing and when I'm reading, you know, other people's books, it's like, I guess the only thing I would hope is like, just like it pushes me to want to go do the thing or say the thing or be the thing, whatever the thing is, right? And so I guess that would be my hope, like a message, like through, you know, if someone's reading my book, that hopefully at some point in the book or something that the heroine does or something that happens, you know, could, you know, inspire the reader to do the thing, be the thing, say the thing, you know, whatever it is. And that way, like they're all strong in their own way, and I guess that's what I don't, but I wouldn't say it's feminist. Like I think that's kind of like what we celebrate, kind of like to the messiness, right? Yeah, like they're empowered to be their best selves with the help of you know maybe their partner, but also you know the ones that they choose to surround themselves with. Just like hopefully we're all trying to be our best selves. So. I don't know if that answered the question.
No,
or
yeah,
not.
I love it.
Like,
These are great answers. Yeah.
Again?
No, these are great answers. I love that. Okay, cool. This next question is for Nisha in the hot seat. So your books, your trilogy is titled "If Shakespeare Were an Auntie." Yes, which is the funniest title in the entire world. So
it was
evocative.
an accident.
Shut up. Tell me how.
It was an accident.
How?
The way that like the series came about is my husband and I were like, he lived in DC and I lived in New York or New Jersey, and we would like visit each other on weekends. And when I went to DC, we'd go to museums, and one of the largest private collection of Shakespeare folios, or like Shakespeare manuscripts, is in DC. It's called the Folgers Library. It's amazing. You can go in. A lot of Shakespeare scholars like hang out there, and like they give tours, which is also super amazing. And so we went on a tour, and one of the like guides was basically like, you know, the reason why there's discourse about how like all these plays have like little bit of differences in each version is because when Shakespeare would like have these plays in the Globe Theater, he would sometimes tweak the language based on the audience in the theater. Mm-hmm. So if there was like more like royalty in the audience, he would tweak it to have like the political jokes would be like heightened. But if there were more like people in the cheap seats, there would be bawdier jokes. And so the lens through which Shakespeare kind of like manipulated his books was like the thing that makes like people kind of debate a lot of his texts. So for me, that was like the moment. That was like, what if I took these stories and I put it through the South Asian experience? Because like Shakespeare's like the plots still slap, you know?
Yeah,
so,
no, they go off. Yeah.
Like I can put it through the South Asian experience and it would be great. So I called up my editor, because I sold the books before I wrote them. And I called up my editor and I was like, what if, hear me out, what if Shakespeare was an auntie? And when we were writing the contract, we had no idea what to call the series. Right. So she's like, if Shakespeare was an auntie. And it ended in the contract. And then when like marketing and publicity was like, what should we call the series? I was like, I don't know.
Like,
so I pulled it from the contract.
Yeah.
And it stuck.
Oh my gosh, did it ever? It like it's like such like a stim for me. Like if Shakespeare was an auntie, it's just like the funniest thing in the entire world. I love that.
Meanwhile, I'm like I groan every time people say it. I'm like, oh, why? Because we never thought like it wasn't thought through. It was kind of like. So but you know, I'm so glad people like it.
Oh, you have a super fan. I think that's hilarious. No, that's perfect. Well, I was gonna ask if you were like a Shakespeare super fan.
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. I'm also like a 90s like Shakespeare retelling movies.
Wait, what's
like
your favorite
Superman,
one?
Like 10 Things I Hate
Of
About You.
Yes,
and like if you see the cover of Dating Dr. Dill, it's the cover of 10 Things I Hate About You. So if you haven't seen them side by side, it's the cover of so it's 100%. And then like if you're also a Shakespeare nerd out there, there's like an essay that Baldwin wrote called Why I Stopped Hating Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. And it talks about the deconstruction of Shakespeare as well, which is like a beautiful essay. So if you're also a Shakespeare nerd, come talk to me. We can
I
talk
love
about
that.
it. It's great.
Wow, I love that. I also love that in these books there's such a sense of community. You know, we talked about that earlier. Everybody's arguing in the same room, but each book, like each of the couples or whatever, they're friends, they gab, you know. So why was that so important for you to include, specifically with like Indian culture and South Asian culture too?
Yeah. So, this is a conversation I think Adriana and I have had. So it's like oftentimes like communities of color, like your identity is not centered on the individual. Your identity is centered on community and community engagement. And so in South Asian culture, it's your identity is often centered on community engagement. Like you are like who you are because of the way that you engage and interact and connect with those who are around you. And so like it would feel like a caricature of the South Asian experience if I did not have South Asian community like prevalent in any of my stories.
Yeah. Oh, it comes across so well. Like, I love it. Okay, so we have an issue. I have individual questions for Ali and Priscilla, but I also have fun questions. So I'm going to individualize these fun questions to Ali and Priscilla and Nisha so we all get a chance to have a direct question. Ali, you will be first.
Yes.
What Taylor Swift era do you correlate with Deep End, I will say?
Ooh. Yeah, it could be Midnight. But also Lover, but also Reputation.
I was thinking Reputation, yeah.
But why not Folkmore?
Why not just all of them?
Why just everyone except for Debut, which we do not acknowledge?
Ali, why? Mary Song Truther here, no way. All right, anyway, after that note, Priscilla, what trope are you desperate to write that you haven't written? These are hard-hitting journalistic questions.
Can I go back to the Taylor Swift? No, that I'm desperate to write? Or,
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to say one I do not think I will ever write.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Sure,
Okay.
the opposite
Or may
question.
I do that?
Yeah.
I will probably never write Secret Baby. And here's why, and it may be
Weak.
like
You're all weak.
no, because I'm as a mom and now as an abuela. If you want to see grandbaby pictures, just ask me later. I have plenty to show you. But I think about all of those firsts that one of the loved ones had to miss, and so you better have. Sorry, but a damn good reason for keeping right. So yes, you could have but I just don't even want to go there.
But
Like,
what
I
if
just
an
not.
evil other man / other woman has kept them apart? What if?
This was my question.
Okay, we're gonna do a lightning round, this or that, okay? Historical or paranormal romance? We'll go down the line. So, Ali, we'll start with you.
I'm gonna say historical, just because
Whoa.
historical doesn't get enough love right now.
Okay,
so.
consider it. Nisha?
I am a child of British colonialism.
Super fair.
I only trust 6 authors with historicals,
Fair
like
enough.
Sarah, like
I
McLean,
was gonna
Adriana
say,
Herrera,
yeah.
Diana Quincy, like like Rosalind Singh. Like these are the few that I trust.
3%.
So, but with Kindle Unlimited, like
Ooh.
paranormal, I don't care what it's grizzly, whatever. I will paranormal.
Okay, fair enough. Priscilla?
I'm picking an Adriana or a Sarah or a Liana de la Rosa historical.
Okay, I love it. Not the answers I was expecting. Okay, age gap or single dad? Ali, we'll start with you. Oh,
What if I said single dad, guys?
that's an age gap.
How shocked would you be? Age gap. I mean,
Period.
I am committed to age gap now. I'm in my age gap era.
Yeah. Yes. Nisha?
Age gap all the way.
Oh my gosh, period.
Is this to write or to have?
Oh. I want to know to have.
No, I'm going to say right. What was the question? I'm kidding you. Single dad. Single dad.
Oh, I love it. Okay, grumpy sunshine or grumpy grumpy?
Oh, I need a grumpy sunshine.
Okay,
I
period.
need a sunshiny.
Nisha?
To read Grumpy Sunshine, to write Grumpy Grumpy.
I love it. Fair enough. Ali?
What about sunshine?
Okay, yes. Yes. Okay, last one. This is probably the toughest one of the. Actually, no. This is the easiest one, and everyone should have the same answer. Team Conrad or Jeremiah?
What are you talking about?
Never mind.
Oh, I haven't watched Whisper to me. Whisper to me. Okay.
Team Con.
Team Conrad.
Yes. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me. This was such an amazing discussion.
Questions for Allie. So for your book Deep End, like, what research did you do to write like a DS relationship? Because I was like really interested in that. I was like, this is your first like really, I think, really spicy book. So I'm like,
I cannot see you. Like you are just a disembodied. Hi, hello, hi. You were like a disembodied voice, and I was like, I mean, there are a lot of resources online for that. This is gonna sound really horrible, but like I feel like I learned a lot about that when I read 50 Shades, and then I read all the ways it was wrong. Like, but that was like people who did the work of like parsing. This doesn't work out. This also doesn't work out. Like the bottom line to me is just that there are a lot of practices and things that you should probably think about, but it's really just like make sure you have consent at every step and that there is a lot of communication. So mostly that was it. I also I want to say I liked 50 Shades. This wasn't to like crap on 50 Shades, but like people who are know more about BDSM than I do pointed out. I am now talking myself into a frenzy. I would just sit back.
I want to know, what has writing about love taught you about love?
It's messy. It's messy, but it feels good.
So I had an arranged marriage, and which is really weird, writing about love and like experiencing love very differently. But the one thing that I learned from like romances and from writing romances that like worked out really well when I was like falling in love with my husband was like you're oftentimes like on one page of a book and they may be on a different page of a book. So like the only way that you can get on the same page is if you communicate. And so like communication is super key for working out like your problems, and that has always been like a cornerstone for me personally.
This question is for Katie.
Oh my gosh! Yay!
Hi. Could your first question was so good about
thank you.
what was your first, and then how it relates to the book in front of you. And I wonder if you could answer that question for yourself.
Oh my gosh, you guys! So my first book was The Kiss Quotient, and I was still
my God.
in middle school. I fear It was like the first illustrated cover I ever saw of like an adult romance novel. So
my God.
I literally asked for it for Christmas from my aunt. She gave it to me, didn't read what it was about because it was an illustrated cover. And so I was like, I'm gonna read it. And I brought it with me on a family vacation. This is such a long story, but we somehow, some way, we ended up in a bus and we thought we were getting kidnapped, but I couldn't care because I was like, what's going on? I literally was like, pardon me, like you literally must be, and my mom's sitting next to me and I'm like, she can't read that. So it was The Kiss Quotient, and that really influenced my writing. Well, it's a very soft romance. It's very steamy if you haven't read it. And the thing that stuck with me most is that it paired, I had known nothing about romance really, and it paired that like really steamy scenes with being very sentimental and very soft, and it was a really gentle love. And I really loved that. It just really stuck with me.
As we're talking about the notion of feminism in writing, like really empowered women in books, do you feel like there are any female characters in any of your books, be it main or like side, that you put a lot of yourself into, be it like your natural personality or like qualities that you would like to see within yourself?
I hate to hog the mic, but this is my only book, so I will say my only heroine, her name is Rosie. We're very similar. She's Peruvian American. She's from Tennessee, a romance writer. There's a lot of myself in her and a lot of things that I wish I was. She's very quick, I would say. Like, she's really fierce. Like, she's not afraid to bite back. I'm a little afraid to bite back, but I wish I weren't. Yeah.
I think with all of my heroines, there's like some aspect that I might identify with, but I definitely like aspire to, like Catalina and Kiss Me Catalina. I wish I had her confidence. She steps on that stage and just owns it and knows that she's going to own it. And so like while writing her, honestly, she intimidated me at first. And so the way I had to start writing that one, I would be like, okay, what would Priscilla do? And then Catalina's going to do the opposite. So I would really like to have her just, damn, I'm good frame of mind. I think Rosa in Her Perfect Affair, I'm probably most like her in the sense that she's the middle one and just trying to do the right thing, but she stands up for herself when she needs to and surprises everyone. And so I feel like that's kind of mostly how I am. Like I will try to be nice to you, but like do something to my family or like when I need to, then I can stand up for myself or stand up for somebody else. So probably Rose is the most like me.
I think like each of my characters have like a trait that I wish that I had in myself. But like the one thing I think we all do share in common is that I pretty much strictly write like Taurus heroines. That's about it. Like they're all Tauruses.
What they said, but without the Taurus part. But yeah, like every character has some parts of me and some parts that I aspire to, yeah.
This question came up in my crit group the other day about whether we are plotters or pantsers. And so I wanted to ask each of you if you're plotters or pantsers and how, if your process has evolved over time, how that's changed.
I think first, if you don't know what a plotter or a pantser is, right? I'm going to put on my teacher hat. But so a plotter, you like literally plot out your scenes. You get to know your characters. You kind of plan out your map for your story, and then you get started. A pantser, you might know your characters a little bit. You kind of maybe have a trope. You kind of have a little bit of an idea of where you want to go, but then you sit down and you fly by the seat of your pants and you just write your first draft, and then you revise, right? So plotter, pantser, or if you're mixed like a plantser or a plotzer or however you want to mesh them yourself.
The panty liner.
Yeah.
Oh! This is Sarah Simone's word. I wish I could claim it, but actually I learned it from Adriana, who, you got it from Sarah, right?
So what, you're a panty liner? Is that what you're saying? Or no, that's just an option?
I think panty liner is just both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what are you?
I panty liner, yes.
I think it just depends on the book that I'm writing. Like, I was writing a road trip YA romance, and like that required extensive plotting, and then my YA mythology, like that's coming out in October, is like extensive plotting. But like Dating Dr. Dill, I was like, I woke up and I was like, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And there, I mean, like it was still a Shakespeare retelling, but like, like most of the time I just was like, let's just see what happens.
I am mostly a plotter. I think having that mind, I will usually plot at least like half of the book. I typically always know like what the last scene is, and usually that stays the same. Sometimes the location might change, but the general idea of what that scene was going to be stays the same. Plotting out like that first half, at least for me, remember how I spoke earlier about that imposter syndrome at the beginning? Like if I have a plan, then I can just tell, that like go sit over there and be quiet because I know what I'm doing. But then along the way, I will turn into, allow myself, like if it's a gift, if you're writing and the character whispers like, hey, I think I want to do this instead, right? So if the character, if another idea comes up, then I will take a scene out. I have like scene cards that I actually write from the beginning, so, right? So I might rip a scene and throw it away or add a scene, right? But so I will allow like some kind of, a little bit of like a plotzering, panty linering, like along the way, but I have to be a plotter at the beginning to get started.
I'm a mix of both, except the only thing I plot out is how they do it. Like that's like the only thing. Like I go into the book and I'm like, they're gonna bang this way. And then the rest I'm kinda like, I kinda have an idea, and then I figure it out from there. So I'm a mix of both, yeah.
Thank you all for coming.